Hey everyone, it's Aureolin. We're back to another episode of Aureolin's Heartrate Gaming. We're back to Idle Heroes with the latest event. It's the Heroic Scroll event again, and they've added a couple of new things. So we have this Palace of Eternity and Palace of Crystal, and we have our new hero, Sherlock. It's a fortress mage. We'll look at his skills in a minute. So the new stuff that they're adding, the Palace of Eternity, it's basically a way for you to exchange specific these for this event. And it says it's typically the past 5 most recently released heroes. So you can exchange one of these 5 heroes for an extra copy of the current being dropped hero, basically. So that's kind of nice. Being able to, like, maybe you went all in on one of these heroes and they turned out to not be really great or not what your team needed. And then a new hero comes out and it's much better or what you needed. And you can exchange those heroes for copies of the new hero. The downside is it requires these crystals. This is what the Palace of Crystal is. And you do heroic summons to earn eternal crystals. And it's every 400 summons, you get 5 crystals. And it takes 10 crystals, like if I put this in there, 10 crystals to replace for one of the heroes. And it does do equivalent exchange from what it says. It said, I think in here it says, like, from what I was reading, it sounded like it was going to be equivalent or basically equivalent. Like if you exchange a 6-star, it's going to give you 2 of the hero. And if you exchange a 9-star, it's going to give you 3 of the hero, that kind of thing. But you have to do at least 800 summons to even be able to exchange once. I kind of doubt these crystals will carry over. I'm curious of whether or not they will. I wish that I could do polls in this event to test it. But the anniversary event is next month, so I don't want to spend my scrolls in this event because I want to keep them for the anniversary event. You can also get these keys to unlock these additional ones, but of course those are exclusively money, so another buy. So they're giving us Ice Blink and Sherlock. But the other interesting thing is the Heroes Lottery. It says the odds on all 5-star heroes are higher. That's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, it could potentially mean that we might get more 5-star heroes overall, but it doesn't mean that you have an increased chance of getting specifically the new hero. And it also means that you have an increased chance of getting, the really foddery 5-stars even more. Yeah, so good and bad. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And then in the exchange, we have Tara and Penny. So both of these heroes are very good. Tara especially is really fantastic. Penny is good for, up to mid-late game. And then there's a lot of things that can beat Penny later. But Tara is fantastic. I love him. Yeah, really like him a lot. So if you can get Tara, it's also going to be harder to get Ultra Stones now just because any 4-star or 3-star hero can be used as fodder for any combination. So you kind of have to just be willing to sacrifice those 3 stars or 4 stars if you're willing to get those stones now. But let's take a look at the new hero. It's a Fortress Mage, and his name is Sherlock. And let's look at the 10-star version of him. All right, so he has base of 590,000 health and 30,000 attack. So he's got pretty good stats. Yeah, pretty decent base stats, and he gets passive damage reduced. Let's take a look at his abilities. So his active is Master Showman. He deals damage against 2 random enemies and has a 100% chance to inflict shape-shifting to one of them for 15 rounds, and has a 65% chance to inflict shape-shifting to another enemy for 15 rounds. So guaranteed one, 65% chance on the second one. And then he gains self 2 layers of well calculated, which that gets explained later. But shape-shifting, the description on this is a little oddball. It says one of the control effects, which I'm guessing they meant to say it counts as a CC, I'm assuming is what they meant to say there, turns the target into a dove, and shapeshifted targets cannot make any moves nor trigger passive skills. So basically, they're just a dove and they can't do any of their abilities, period. Nothing. After receiving 3 active skill attacks or basic attacks, the target will get free from the shape-shifting effect in advance, and it's not stackable. So once they get hit 3 times, poof, they go back to normal. And his passives are HP, attack, damage reduction, and speed. All very nice little things for a mage to have. The damage reduction is a nice little bonus for a mage. That's pretty nice passives. His third skill is a passive called Showtime. When the battle starts, he gains self 3 layers of well calculated. And after that, when each round ends, have a 100% chance to gain another layer of well calculated and a 50% chance for an extra layer. So he has a lot of chance to him. So you're guaranteed at the end of each round to get one more layer. And this is important because these layers only matter in 2s. So having a 50% chance for a second layer is like, oh, hope you get it. Basic attack targets 1 random enemy and does damage and has a 50% chance to inflict shape-shifting. So his basic attack has a half a chance of inflicting the shape-shifting also. So that's kind of neat. Lots of CC. And then his last passive is Deceiving Tricks, and when Sherlock is inflicted with marks, he will consume 1 layer of well calculated to dispel 1 mark from self. Oh, they must have edited this. It did say 2 layers. I swear it did. I don't know. I'm awake now. So he'll consume 1 layer to dispel a mark. When he's controlled, he will consume a layer of well calculated to transfer 1 control effect to 1 random enemy. And every time Sherlock's HP is below 30%, so every time, not just the first time in battle, if he heals and drops back to 30%, it'll happen again. He will consume 2 layers of well calculated and exchange self HP with the enemy who has the max current HP. And that caps at 5,000% of his attack. And when the number of well-calculated layers is less than that to consume, they can't be triggered. So obviously you have to have layers for it to be triggered. But that's kind of cool. So he basically can get rid of CC effects and dots and marks off of himself with these layers of well calculated, and he can even pass them over to the enemy. And when his HP gets low, he can swap his HP with an enemy. So that's kind of neat. I feel like this hero is more specifically geared towards those Delacium built teams to kind of help deal with the proliferation of dots and stuff. I feel like he's going to be slightly situational, because certain abilities that are running really meta right now are things like carries, control circle that damages you and depletes your active ability. And I don't think those technically count as marks, because I think what they consider marks are like dots that like Delacium can proliferate, and Delacium can't proliferate carries ability. So, yeah, I feel like he'll be situational against specific types of teams. I'm curious as to whether or not he'll be able to dispel Carrie's effects or Tara's effects or even Ada's effects. I mean, any of those. I'm curious. Um, he sounds interesting. And I mean, you look at the big giant paragraph and you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck does this mean? It's all so confusing. But really, it's just he's going to get layers of protection and he'll use those layers of protection to get rid of CC effects on himself, to give them to the enemies, and to swap health with an enemy who has more, basically. And he will get a layer each turn that he survives, essentially, and then he's turning people into doves. So it's neat. And he does have good stats. So I'm kind of curious to see how well he will um, survive and play out, because if he could dove some of the really big, crazy characters, he could potentially be super meta. I'm also curious of whether or not certain effects like his dove effect, can you proliferate it? I doubt it. I don't. It's more. I mean, it says one of the control effects, so I imagine that means this is not a dot. This is a CC. So yeah, there's no way to really proliferate it, but it sounds really cool. Plus, the whole being able to eliminate their passives is huge. There's so many heroes with passive abilities that could just ruin your whole run alone with their passives. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how it's gonna work. Like, if they get turned into a dove, are they gonna lose like Amon Ra's shield or anything like that? Or are they still gonna have those effects on them as doves? I imagine they would, because it's not really, it's just in disabling their um, skills, basically. But I'm curious. He does have good stats. I'm interested to see whether or not he'll actually be usable in the current meta. I'm not sure that he will be able to. The fact that he can cause shapeshifting by a basic attack is promising, and not just his active, because otherwise I doubt he'd be able to last. And whether or not his special layers can dispel Carrie, or his well calculated, whether it could dispel like Carrie's effects or Tara's effects or Ada's effects, those sorts of things. Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see him run to see how well he handles those things. Because if it doesn't work against those skills, and if he can't transfer some of those bigger threats, then I don't think he's really going to matter that much in the end game teams right now. So that's what's new with this event. Like I said, I really can't do summons. Next month is the anniversary event. So have to save for the anniversary event. Have to. It's a must. It's going to be good. At least it should be. I really hope it is at this point. Last year it was a pretty good event. So I'm excited. I can't wait. It always comes um, more suddenly than we think. So I am excited for that, and I am anticipating it, and I'm waiting. But I think that's it for this. Oh, I guess I could do my adventure. I have 34 more days to go. I had a couple of rotten run-ins, like, with your daily check-in. I had like bad wind, and I had you've been attacked and everything else. It's like, oh, thanks. Great. Awesome. Whatever. I'll get to the end when I make it, but that's it for this event. So just keep saving for the anniversary event, unless you really like this hero, or, I mean, if you just, I hope I mean, I imagine they're going to make this a permanent thing, kind of like they did with the Imps board. They're probably going to make this Palace of Eternity a permanent so that you can exchange for these new heroes if you want to. So, yeah, make a judgment call. You may want to save for the anniversary event, but if you choose not to, then I wish you luck. And if you enjoyed, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. See ya!